I have to be better. I'm not playing as good as I was last year. It's not because I'm old. It's because my caddy is broken. Spencer! You forgot the lemon in my iced tea. Again. You ready? Here we go. It did it. I don't believe it.
Let's go Panthers! Let's go Panthers! Let's go Panthers! Let's go! Go!
Puck drop. And 3, 2, 1.
Let's go Panthers! Let's go Panthers! Let's go Panthers! Let's go! Go!
Alright, Panther fans, how we doing? So we got Columbus tonight. In Columbus after being home on Saturday and having another home game on Tuesday against the Bruins. We've got Columbus tonight. Bubba Ruski's going to be back in net as far as I know. I'm not going to get... I've said my piece the last couple of videos. We need better goaltending. Let's hope one of these cats takes the bull by the horns, so to speak. And, I mean, Spencer gave us a shutout not that long ago. And we need one of these guys to start playing consistently night after night, outing after outing, giving us, 2 goals, maybe 3 goals against, and enough with the weak goals, especially the 5-hole. Somebody just glue the paddle in front of them. It's almost time to start looking at the standings. Yesterday I said it is almost there. I did a side-eye glance look today when I was doing the video with Stu. We are in that position of it's going to be Thanksgiving and we're not in the playoff position. Now, it's only by 3 points. We could probably make up 2 of those tonight, so it's not like I'm genuinely concerned that we're actually going to miss. But it's time to start winning games here. And I know Maurice has said he wasn't too worried about wins and losses as he gets the system in and everything like that. But it's time to start worrying about wins and losses. We've got to start getting on some win 3, win 4, lose 1. At least give us something like that for a month. Let's get moving here a little bit more. There's been a lot of movement around the lines. I'd like to see something start to get settled upon and stick that way. I know yesterday they had White up there at top with Barkov. I'm happy with the second line. Not necessarily as much as I love Ryan Lomberg. Is he going to be a second line winger that can give us enough goals? That remains to be seen. But I think you're going to see a decent sized look from him. And they had Bennett back with Kachuk. So I'm not quite sure what Maurice is thinking was there, if that was just for the one game or what's going on there. But we've been trying to fill that spot next to Barkov since they decided to break him and Huberdeau up. And we miss Anthony Duclair. That's the last thing I'll say. There's no way around it, because usually, especially between Verhaeghe and Duclair, when one was hot, the other one, when one got cool, the other one would get hot. They were a really good 1-2 combination, and I'd love to see him right next to Barkov and finish filling up that spot. Just finish the line. It'd be Barkov, Duke, and Verhaeghe. Not sure how much longer we have. The last we heard, he was looking at December, January, so we're closing in. It wouldn't surprise me to see in the next couple of weeks we start to see him out on the ice testing things. So, we're not getting the same amount of goals. We're not getting the same type of goaltending, but the defense is definitely structurally better. So, time is now. That's it. We had our nice little honeymoon period of the coach getting used to everybody and all of that. We've got to get 2 points out of this game. So we're tied with Columbus at 1 after 1. Shots are 18-4. And we're doing that thing we do where we get a lot of shots and then one mistake. Mark Stahl with an attempted cross-ice pass to Brandon Montour with a Columbus Blue Jacket guy just right. It was just a stupid pass. And then, of course, Bubba Brewski on the breakaway, 5-hole, no paddle down. So one mistake leads to another mistake, and it leads to a tie game against a bad Columbus team right now, against a goalie whose goals against is actually worse than Bobrovsky is right now. But okay, we're going to move on to second period. Going to get 2 points. Because I want to enjoy my night. I cannot fathom the alternative version of the ending of this video if we don't get 2 points. Alright, I'm just going to make this quick. It's 2-2 after 2. We spent the majority of that period down. We're dominating in shots, but we're making this kid Tazarov, Tasmanian Devil, we're making him look like a Vezina candidate. Aaron Ekblad finally puts one in, ties the game as 2-2, and all I can say is that 2 points, or I've got a grill right outside. I'm gonna bring it right in about here. I got plenty of boxes over here in the corner, and we're just gonna light and set the whole damn thing on fire. I prefer the 2 points. So, for those of you who are new to the channel, and by new I mean the last year, maybe even 2 years, maybe even 3 years. Started this channel when the team was not good, and night after night after night after night for year after year after year after year, I built the audience, the base of this channel, on one rant after another in the recaps, because we were just that bad. I had one game last year where I had to rant. You know, while we've been playing the way we've been playing, I've been hanging my hat, so to speak, on this prediction that I made that we'd be 11-7-2 after 20 games. I made the case for how we could get a little bit better every 20 games and win the cup. So I have been reserving what I won't call quite panic, but I've been reserving it because I can't freak out if the team is doing what I said they do. And this ain't that. Now, if there's one thing that I cannot express to you, how tired, beaten down, just gravel, you know, when you slide on the road and you get gravel all in your leg, that feeling, that pain. That's how I feel when we have to start talking about what's going on with Bobrovsky, and we're going to have a list of comments, and half of them are going to say Bob sucks, and the other half of them are going to be making excuses for why it's not Bob's fault. My phone is the perfect example. I've got some who say it's all on Bob, and we dominated this game, and then others who say something completely different. I'm going to give you my take, because that's all I've got. Both things can be true. Both things can be true. We've seen this movie before, the one year especially where Bobrovsky was not having anywhere near as the numbers that Drieger was having. And we would say, oh, well, it's the defense is playing so much better in front of Drieger. And in some cases, that was not untrue. Now, you can look at a game tonight and see that 3, 4 of those goals. See, where we get caught as a fan base is this giant pie chart of here's Bob making the $10 million that is basically destroying what the salary cap structure for the rest of the team should be. But the guy who signed him to the $10 million is nowhere near to be found. He is gone. So everybody that's left has to deal with that $10 million albatross. So there we have that. And then we have the part where the defense or somebody will make a mistake. And then the puck's in the back of the net. And the Bob defenders will say, well, it's not Bob's fault it was the 2-on-1. It's not Bob's fault. And we get stuck on the word fault. You don't win cups because your goalie isn't at fault. You win cups because your goalie's winning you a friggin' cup in concert with the rest of the team playing well. Now, you don't have to be Vasilevsky every game to win a cup, just as Darcy Kemper from last season. But you do need to make the saves when your defense and your team screws up. Because guess what? It's hockey, and they're going to screw up. There's going to be bad passes. There's going to be 2-on-1s. There's going to be breakaways. There's going to be shots from bad angles. There's going to be deflections. And you have to stop some of them. But we all get stuck on this word fault, as though there's only one fault to go around. And I'm going to get to Maurice. Don't even worry about that. Matthew Tkachuk came out the first, 4 or 5 games, was an absolute beast. He's running around. He's hitting everybody. He's skating all over the place, and we were like, wow! And now he's still playing well, but don't anybody try to sell me that the guy we saw those first 5 games is the same energy that we've seen out there now. It ain't. It ain't. That's number one. Okay? Number 2, Barkov is just what he is. He's an excellent two-way forward. He is never, ever, 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 all the evers. He's never going to take this team by the cojones and lead it anywhere. Somebody else is going to have to lead. Rest of the first line is who the hell knows what. Just depends on the coach's fancy. He put Reinhart back up there. Because I don't know why. I mean, Colin White we were doing fine in terms of when you constantly have to change the guy on the right wing, maybe it's the fucking center's fault. I'm so sick of all the Barkov defenders at some point. He's not worthy of being the captain of this team. Not that there's anybody right now really playing worthy of being the captain. Don't confuse those two. Because Tkachuk's not showing me all. Yes, he's getting goals, but he ain't playing on fire like Tasmanian Devil like he did at the start of the season. Bennett is hot and cold. For Hagee, he's going to do what he's going to do. He's not really an issue here. Aaron Ekblad is an issue. Aaron Ekblad he's not even a number 1 defenseman at this point. And yes, I know he got a goal tonight. He's so freaking slow out there now. I think he might be slower than Stahl at this point. I don't know if he's still hurt or if it's just the combination of all the injuries over the last few years. He got dinged up again tonight. He's so slow, I'm fairly certain I could beat him in a race. I was pretty fast. I was actually a pretty fast skater. But that's not the point. The point is he's a liability out there. He's approaching Yandel-esque liability out there. And I know some of you are going to say I'm baloney, full of it. Keep watching the games. Because we were doing pretty good when he was out. Defense looked pretty damn solid with Forsling, Montour, Gudas, Mahura, Kierstead, Stahl, Carson. We looked pretty good. Giving up no goals, 2 goals, 1 goal. Suddenly Ekblad comes back, and it's 4 over here, and it's 5 over here, and it's 4 over here. And it ain't by accident. You want to talk about fault? It's all fault. It's all fault. There's no one thing. There's no one person. So I don't want to blow up the channel because I'm pissed off. But at the same point, there's no defending any of these people right now. None of them. They're all at fault. They're all contributing to an absolute massive disaster. Now let's get to Maurice. Now I've defended him because of how he's been verbalizing things. Not really worried about wins and losses right now. Trying to install the system. We want to get these guys used to playing playoff hockey and everything. Yeah, that all sounds really good. That all sounds really good. The problem is there's a real divide with this team. There's a divide with this team. And I'm not talking about like the players don't like each other or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. But you've got one group of players that would play one way and one group of players that would play another way. You've got the Bennett, Kachuk, Hornquist type of player. And then you've got the Barkov, Verhaeghe, Reinhardt type of player. Not quite sure where to put Lundell in with that mix just yet. He's still a little bit inconsistent for my blood, but he's a very, very young player. I'm not going to over-criticize him. But Maurice's job is to figure out who goes with where, who goes with who, where do they go, and start to make it work. And unfortunately, it's getting worse as he goes because he can't quite figure it out. Now, I grasp concept that we're missing Duclair, okay? We're missing Duclair, that's fine. That would solve the issue on the top line. But he can't get any of the other lines right. And then we lose Balsers, who was a nice piece. He was for the skill on this team, Balsers would have fit. Yeah, he didn't have a great start to the season. And I'm not saying he makes a huge difference here either. But it gives us another option. And which leads us to the big thing, which is we have no options because we have no cap space. We have no options because we have no cap space because Zito spent all summer, and I love Patrick Hornquist, don't get me wrong. But now where are we? Where are we? With the guy that we need back in Duclair, somebody has got to go before he can even come back. So are we suffering through this mess when we could have had maybe another decent priced winger because we're going to end up losing Hornquist anyway? What's going to end up happening there? So when I say everybody is to blame, and just forget about the word fault, this is Barkov, this is Kachuk, this is Reinhardt, this is Ekblad, this is Maurice, this is Bob, and this is Zito. That's 7. I can't really throw too much blame on the Stalls because we shouldn't be expecting much from them other than being an extra piece. They should not be having as an important role in the team that had Stanley Cup aspirations as they've been given. But we have no cap because we did nothing during the offseason to fix the problem. And I understand not wanting to lose certain people, but the people this ain't working. This ain't working. Now, for whatever reason, the same dynamic continues to happen. We're dominating in shots. We can't put the puck in the net. We get the one, we're really struggling to get the second goal. Really struggling to get that second goal. Shot placement is terrible. That's number one. We're not nearly being as tenacious in front of the net as we need to be. And that's number 2. The power play. Again, he just keeps changing the guys and changing the guys and changing the guys. And every once in a while, we look decent. And then there's the goaltending. Now, Bob is Not a young goaltender. But again, we have this $10 million albatross where what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Honestly, right now, based on how they're playing, I give Spencer Knight the job. You give him 2 starts for every one. You give Knight the job. You begin to develop him to what he's going to be. And in the off season, if you can't move Bob, you buy him out and eat the rest of the contract. And bite the bullet. Because right now we're biting the bullet on the ice. Can he turn it around? I don't know. We've been waiting. We're closing on game 20. That's a quarter of the season. The dude's allowing more than 3.5 goals per game. That's not 2.5. That's 3.5. There's only so many spaces you can blame that on the defense. Because Bob was doing that even before Ekblad came back. It's a mess. It's a mess. Now, did Bob suddenly get bad? I don't know. He's not a young goalie. And let's just be honest here. I need you to hear this, because this is true. Aging players, okay? Aging players will have a tendency to start a downslide. And then they will have 1 year, they'll have that one more really good year in the gas tank. And then after that year, you really see a drop-off. Is it possible that what we saw last year with Bobrovsky was after him starting to take the downslide, over 30 years old? Last year he had that one more high-quality year in him, and that's what we got. And now we're starting to see a downslide. It's not impossible. He's 34 years old, right? I mean, by the time Luongo was 37, it was pretty close to over, right? We knew we would end up in this situation when we signed that contract. Aging players, this is what it looks like, people. This is what it looks like. When they can't, especially for a goaltender who's, Bob is the guy that makes the spectacular saves. He's always been a guy that might let in a sneaky one here, a sneaky one there, but he was the one that was super acrobatic, making the spectacular saves. We might have just got all the gas he had left in the tank last season, and we might want to start wrapping our head around that. I would give Spencer Knight the job, because why not at this point? I mean, just go look at the standings, go look at the statistics for Bob and Knight, and sell me why we shouldn't give Spencer Knight the job. I know he didn't have a great night the other night, but previous to that, he's been far significantly better than Bobrovsky. You have to start to see what's Spencer Knight going to be when you start giving him 5 and 6 consistent games, and maybe giving Bobrovsky a little bit more rest. He can still be a viable backup for us for a few years at an astronomical, admittedly, price. But this is a very limited thing of what you can do with Bobrovsky now. Because guess what? Any small sliver of a chance that we thought we might have had after a year or two of trading him, forget about it if we keep throwing him on the ice and this is how he looks. It's a massive disaster if we don't make the right moves right now. You give this job to Spencer Knight. The team is below 500. We have to beat the Bruins to be at 500 after 20 games. You give this job to Spencer Knight and you see how far he can run with it. That, number one, has to happen. Number two, Aaron Ekblad is not a number one defenseman. He's not even a top line defenseman at this point. He's too slow. I don't know if he's still hurt. I don't know if it's a combination of all the injuries. He's not a top pair defenseman right now. At this point, we traded the wrong dude. Hey, and I know that's going to get a good laugh, but the way they're playing right now, it's my fault for suggesting it, but maybe it should have been Huberdeau and Ekblad. I'm just saying. He's not playing. He's something's not right with him, or again, he's been slowed by injury. Do we have a coach that's going to make these moves? I don't know. There's this whole Erik Karlsson rumor out there. I don't know what the hell we're going to do with that, like $11.5 million salary. The hell we're going to do with that? With Bob and Ekblad for Karlsson straight up, no salary retained either way? All right, let's do that. Let's do that. Ain't nobody going to do that. Ain't nobody going to do that. Not now, not with the way Bob's playing. It's a mess. And Maurice, to say the time is up, say the time is up. Now, I know there's people say we should fire the dude. I mean, 19 games in, that's a bit much. I'm not ready to fire him, but the honeymoon is over. The honeymoon is over, because this ain't getting the guys ready to play playoff hockey. This is, he can't figure out who the hell goes with who and what buttons to push to get this team to move. That's what this is at this point. A loss like this is not because the team is getting used to each other and is learning to play a different style of hockey. This is because the coach can't figure shit out, and it's starting to show. On top of the fact that the goalie is, I don't know what, and your ex-number one defenseman is on one leg. So it's a combination of all those things combined with the fact that Zito did shit over the summer once we knew we had a cap issue, and he's just basically just rolling the dice with, maybe we'll get lucky and somebody gets hurt so we can put him on LTR. That's our plan for this year. Is don't do anything because maybe we'll get lucky and somebody gets hurt long term. And that's not even an exaggeration. That's the plan. All right. I'm sure Stu and I will be bright and early tomorrow morning. I could go for another hour right now because I've been holding it all in because they were on pace for what I predicted. And, you know, if we win this game, we lose to Boston and they miss the mark by a game, okay. But this is unacceptable. This is something. We just lost to Columbus. We're going to be 5-6 points out of a playoff spot on Thanksgiving. And I am tired. I already did I did 4 or 5 years of recaps when we sucked. We just got good. But I don't know. I know I said this. I know I predicted what I predicted. Team's going to win the cup. That ain't happening with Bobrovsky right now. To me, and I'm not saying you give up on this year. That's not what I'm saying. So don't read that into what I'm going to say. But I think you start looking at, okay, we want to get the best possible result out of this season. But we also need to start looking at next year and the year after. You have to give Spencer Knight the frickin' job. It's time. It's time. Now, if he absolutely flops and you put Bob back in and suddenly Bob is last year's Bobrovsky, okay, maybe okay. But if you're going to put Spencer Knight out there and he's going to give you 5 games and in 3 of them he only allows 2 goals and then 1 he allows 3 and then 1 is like last night where he allowed 4, you're developing a hell of a good goaltender and you're going to be that much better next year and the year after and the year after. Look, I'm 51 years old. And any of you guys who are my age who have been watching sports your whole life, you know what I'm talking about. Aging players. This is what it looks like. Especially if they had a really good year last year. A lot of times that next year it really is a big drop. He's not confident. His angles are down. His angles are wrong. He's not moving good. I mean, he's just not. And it was this way in preseason, too. He had 1 good game in preseason. And then he looked like ass the rest of the way. This is what an aging goalie looks like. It's what an aging athlete looks like. I'm sorry. I've seen it enough in my lifetime to know. And I didn't want to call it. I keep hoping that he's going to pull out of this, but I don't think that's... I'm not saying he's never going to play good games again, but if you take that contract away, it is a no-brainer. If you take the contract away and you take away what Bobrovsky did 5, 8 years ago when he was spectacular, it's a no-brainer, and you give Spencer Knight the job and Bobrovsky's the backup. That's it. And I'm not blaming it all on Bob, but if you want this team, you want this franchise to move forward, you got to give this job to Spencer Knight. And you got to figure out what the hell you're going to do with Aaron Ekblad. Because he's a liability on the ice. Massive liability. All right. Kyle's still doing the stream. I want to get this up and out to you so I can enjoy the rest of my night. Stu and I will be back in the morning. Be interested to see what he has to say. See what the comments to this video is. I did not want to make this video. I've been hoping and hoping and hoping against all hope. We lost Columbus. It's not acceptable.